Hi, Captain Steve for BoatTEST.com, and today I'm going to conduct a sea trial and performance evaluation on a brand new launch from Leopard, the 46PC. Now, this is a fourth generation for Leopard. It started with the 53PC, and now it has gone to this model. So they're taking everything they learned from that boat and transferring it to this one. And let's see how they've done as far as the handling and performance is concerned. First, however, let's look over the operational features starting right here on the aft deck with the engine compartments. Now, of course, the compartments are going to be much the same with subtle differences, but let's start with this starboard side. Notice heavy soundproofing on the underside of the hatch, 2 support struts, and gasketing all the way around. There's a channel going all the way around the perimeter of the hatch, and then a drain leading overboard, not into the bilge. Engine option starts with 250 horsepower as standard. You can go to 320 or this 8LV 370 horsepower Yanmar. There's room around the engine to get easy access all the way around it for working on it. There are 2 batteries here. Both are engine start batteries, so that's interesting that they're both over here. Let's see what's over on the other side when we get there. Over on the port hand side, there's easy access to the fuel strainer and the raw water strainer. Now, if I look behind me, there's a huge compartment back here that also gives us easy access to the steering gear. Now, over on the starboard side, not only the exhaust, but the water intake, the hoses are coming up and are curved down so that we don't get water backfilling into the engine. Nice touch there. Also, everything is double clamped, and I noticed the sharp edges of the clamps are all protected on the ends. Now, over on the port side, frankly, it's a nearly identical setup. Again, we have 2 engine start batteries, so that's interesting. It's a dual engine start battery system to both sides. This one also has a generator start battery. The generator located just behind. And we can still have easy access to the steering gear just behind. Both engines are straight shafts. We're not talking about V-drive transmissions here. And I noticed that when the mounting bolts are torqued down, they're marked so that we can easily see at a glance if they loosen up. Now, of course, this one not only has the sea strainer and the fuel filter for the engine, but it also has an additional fuel filter for the generator. With 2 engine start batteries to either side, where are the house batteries? Well, they're in the house. There's an elaborate inverter system so that we can run all of the vessel's electrical systems off of these batteries. There's easy access to both side decks, and because we have a symmetrical layout, they both measure the same. Rail height comes up 29 inches. That far and away exceeds ABYC standards, and also to both sides, there is an opening gate. Midship cleat, 12 inches. That makes 1, 2, 3 cleats to either side, plus there are 2 more cleats fully forward. Now, underneath the hatch in the center of the bow, we have a Lumar windlass leading through a chain stopper and going out to a roller just underneath the deck. There's another roller on top of the deck, so we can have a dual anchor setup. Remote control is right alongside, plus there's an additional cleat right alongside. Notice there's a quick hose connection so that we can hose the ground tackle off as it's coming aboard. And of course, let's not forget to state the obvious, there's a bridle setup. Now, I'll tell you, this door right here, every Leopard owner's favorite feature. And from an operational standpoint, it's mine too, because it gives you easy access to the ground tackle from the lower helm. Now, let's take a look at the features of this helm. 2 12-inch displays. They're multi-function displays, so in addition to showing all of our chart and radar functionality, navigation functions, we can also have all of our switching and controls for all of our equipment on this boat, as well as our interior and exterior lighting. Right alongside that, Raymarine Autopilot, and down below is a remote control for the autopilot that we can disconnect and carry around with us. There's a Fusion stereo on the left side of the console. Engine controls over to the right-hand side, along with a large Raymarine VHF. Just above that, the engine start stops well out of the knee strike zone. Thank you very much for that. I always see them down here somewhere where they seem to be out of the way, but they never are. Great spot for that. And then beverage holders just behind. Want to use that for a phone holder? Go for it. There's a USB charge port right alongside. Now, the steering wheel is mounted to a tilt base. The seat at 30 inches, not really double wide, but let's call it 1.5 width, and it's in a fixed position. I'd like to be able to come up with a seat that has maybe a flip-up bolster, something along those lines. At the companionway to the starboard accommodations is the ship's power panel. generator controls, the inverter controls, and air conditioning controls. Now in the flybridge helm, two 16-inch displays, Fusion stereo remote, electrical switches, charge ports. Again, the steering wheel mounted to a tilt base, VHF down below, the Yanmar display, autopilot, thruster control, and the digital engine controls over to the right-hand side. When I mentioned the bow thruster control up here, that made me think, hey, wait a minute, where was the thruster control when I was down below? So I went down and looked for it. There isn't one down below. There's only a bow thruster control up here at the flybridge. That's an interesting feature. I don't know why they did that, but I'd like to see it down below as well. Let's go see what kind of numbers we can get out of this. Not an ideal day for getting performance numbers because we've got 15 to 20 mile an hour wind, so it's probably going to be pretty choppy out today. But if we don't get top speed numbers, we'll at least be able to get handling conditions to comment on, so we'll see how that goes.
The Leopard 46 PC has a length overall of 46 feet 4 inches, a beam of 24 feet 1 inch, and a draft of 3 feet 1 inch. With an empty weight of 36,945 pounds, half fuel, full water, and 3 people on board, we had an estimated test weight of 40,497 pounds. With twin 370 horsepower Yanmar 8L V370s run up to 3,700 RPM, our speed topped out at 22 knots. Best cruise came in at 3,000 RPM at 16.8 knots. At that speed, the 22.5 gallon per hour fuel burn translated into 0.7 nautical miles per gallon and a range of 329 nautical miles. If distance is the goal, then drop it down to 1750 RPM and 8.8 knots. There, the range opens up to 736.2 nautical miles. Even better, try 1500 RPM and 7.7 knots. That brings a range of 967.7 nautical miles. That means an extra 231 nautical miles by slowing down only 1 knot. All while still holding back a 10% reserve of the boat's 489 gallon total fuel capacity. In acceleration tests, we reached 20 miles per hour in 12.4 seconds.
I found this to be a fun boat to drive. We did have not ideal conditions, but A, even though it was bad, we got it up to top speed, so we got some good numbers out of it. And B, I got some good ideas on how she handles, and I was impressed. Going into a head sea, there wasn't so much of a sneeze effect as there was taking spray over the bow. Going into a beam sea, she was taking spray from the side, but that's to be expected because once the waves would hit the side of the boat, they create spray, wind picks it up, and then takes it onto the boat. So really no points taken for that. That's to be expected. Going down a following sea, I expected that the boat was going to get pushed around from side to side from the waves coming up behind us, but that did not happen, nor was there any tendency for the bow to stuff itself. It would come into the wave in front of us, slice through it with the narrow bows, and create enough buoyancy to come up and over it, and it was very comfortable, so I had no problem with the feeling of adding speed and hitting the throttle and really getting it to where I wanted it to be. I didn't find that there was a sweet spot that was more comfortable than others. It was just comfortable all across the spectrum in the following sea.
Overall, I was very impressed with the 46 PC. She has excellent handling characteristics, particularly in the less than ideal conditions we encountered, and she's easy to handle around the dock. And that's my sea trial and performance evaluation of the all-new 46 PC from Leopard. For BoatTEST.com, I'm Captain Steve. We'll see you on the water.